Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of SMITE Comprehensive Guides. This is Cthulhu. Now, I wanted a match that very specifically focused on the early game of Cthulhu. The enemy team surrenders at just under 15 minutes for this match. So this is actually a really great opportunity to focus in on Cthulhu's early game very specifically, because that is, in my opinion, the hardest point of playing Cthulhu is that early game. Mostly because if you have a rough early game with Cthulhu, it is very hard to come back from that. This particular match also proves a couple of other things that I've been saying for a long time, or at least as another piece of evidence for these things. So this is going to be another important match for me to talk about beyond just that. You'll understand what I'm talking about at the end when I actually talk about that particular subject. But really quickly, I wanted to bring up the enemy team composition here, because right off the top, I'm eyeballing this Baron Samedi and the Bologna, and I'm trying to decide if I want to go with the Tainted Steel start, or if I'm going to go with the Warrior's Axe. Now, ultimately, I choose to go with the Warrior's Axe, as you'll see, but I just really quickly wanted to bring up that I was contemplating Tainted Steel, but ultimately I decided that if I build Warrior's Axe, and given that Baron Samedi is the only substantial source of healing here, then I can theoretically put some additional pressure on and be able to build the Pestilence in the second half of the match. Alright, so with that, let's pop to here. Now, the only thing that I really can't figure out is, look, the start, I'm not even going to pause with this, the start changed a little bit where you don't pull everyone towards the middle, you don't pull the purple towards the green and then you meet at the middle now. You do the 2 and the 1. I'm going to turn this down slightly. I feel like this is a little too loud. There we go. This is mostly to control the damage that you're taking as a team collectively. Now, you'll also notice, really quickly, I want to mention that you'll notice that I have the first stage of Manticore's Spikes, because this gives you really substantial MP5, and I have 5 healing potions and 4 multi-potions. This is because when you have the beads there, or the earrings as they're actually called, you don't really need pure mana potions until after you get your ult, and even then a lot of the times you don't even need pure multi-potions right there. Now, of course, Amaterasu dies. I don't know why she dies so early here. I do know at the end of the match, based on her itemization, why she dies. But you'll see right now I poked the Medusa to grab that minion aggro. I'm actually going to pull back a little bit and show that again, because I was distracted a little bit. We get the early pressure because, of course, Cthulhu hits a little harder than Maui does with his abilities. And then I go up, I poke the Medusa, I grab that minion aggro, and then I'm hitting the back line. Alright, I got a free hit on Maui because he backed into it, which kept minion aggro on me, which was great. And then we do some more poking here. Now, I'm backing up right here because I don't want to get too close to the edge here, the line of the tower. I don't want Maui pulling me in, right? He whiffs that, he throws that out, I go for the poke, which is, fantastic. I get extra damage because of my Warrior's Axe. I get some mana and healing using my potions. They poke him out a lot, so I interfere here with the Horrific Emblem. That was mostly to discourage them from chasing the On Her. He was taking more damage than I liked. He was taking more poke than I was anticipating from that, and you can see where it's kind of a little bit out of the blue here, because here we are, he's about half poked out, right, and then she gets a couple of poison shots off on him, and Maui gets some auto attacks, so he has to back up. But again, the Horrific Curse is enough to discourage them from pursuing that any further. So, we clear the wave. I'm going for some more poke. I'm level 3, which is great. More poke, and then I'm going to be trying to root here. On her goes for the pillar. Now, I dive this slightly because I wanted to keep the Maui under there. You can see he almost got killed. The On Her might have missed a shot. Maybe he just doesn't do enough damage at this point, but it was good enough, right? I have multi-potions. I have health potions, so it was worth the tower shot. Maui, of course, I know his pull takes a little bit of time to charge, obviously, so I knew that he wouldn't have it up in time to pull me back in. On Her gets some damage on the Medusa. I focus on the wave and the Bastion, right? So they're both low, which is great for us. Now, at this point, we should be looking at that jungle buff there. We decide to wait another wave. ultimately, it wouldn't make a huge difference. Achilles was being pressed at the oracles, so probably the better idea to stay in wave for a little bit to see where Serket goes from mid lane there, and she does wind up heading this way. So I'm keeping an eye on that, and the On Her wants to deny experience, but of course we've already done too much damage to the wave for that to matter, so it was kind of silly. It's just a little bit of a waste of time. I know Serket is coming. He wants to go for the buff. I'm like, okay, here's Serket. I'm not too surprised. I'm a little surprised. You can see in the minimap where Medusa and Maui look to chase that, and so the wave meets because On Her hesitated too long. I hesitated too long as well, and they're going for the buff now with Serket, which is what he's saying be careful about, by the way, but it doesn't really make a huge difference because they're low enough where Serket isn't going to risk a gank here. Specifically the Maui, the Medusa has obviously recovered. She's got, I believe, Death's Toll, if I remember correctly. And Serket, of course, is gone at this point, otherwise she would have made an appearance. But again, she wouldn't have wanted to press this because of the Maui's condition. Now, you'll notice that I'm still in really good condition. I'm really in good shape here. Also, by the way, the Medusa probably had potions at this point as well. Most people do. Again, more damage on the Bastion. I'm looking to just hit level 5 at this point so I can rotate over to mid. And, you know, he's working on that Bastion. I'm looking at these stats. Actually, what I'm really looking for here, let me go back really quick and talk about the items that the enemy team is building, because this is where I realize why the Amaterasu is having a hard time. You'll actually see right here, she has the Talisman, which is great if your laning opponent is magic, so I'm assuming that Gigalithos was expecting a solo lane Baron Samedi for some reason, but wound up with Bologna, and so has a disadvantage there. This is why she died so early on. Alright, this is why she's still having a hard time. You can see she's under tower right here. You can see she's lost a Bastion. This is why. It's just because clearly the Amaterasu was expecting that Baron Samedi. But what I'm really looking for is what Maui is building. He's going for the Gauntlet of Thebes first, so I know that I'm going to at least have a decent enough time on that. Getting my Prophetic Cloak and getting my stacks for that. I'll have a bit of leeway there. I'm not really going to fall behind, which is very comforting. So we clear this wave, and what is interesting is they go back for their purple, right? And then I want to go back for our purple, because right now I really don't want to fall behind in golden experience. They were getting theirs, so we're safe to get ours. There's Maui and Medusa back, you know, under tower, clearing the wave. And then what I don't know at this point is that Maui is backing right now as we're doing this camp, right? So Maui is backing. I don't know this, but what I want to do is before I leave On Her, I want to clear this one last wave. Now here's Medusa. I call enemy missing because at this point I get suspicious. On Her and I really press on Medusa. I use my horrific emblem because she's used her dash. She uses her ult. On Her gets the kill, which is great. That's what I wanted, right? And now at this particular point, I use my last health potion. I use a multi-potion. I provide some more damage to the wave. I'm looking for Maui on the minimap. There he is. I see him. And so I'm like, alright, once this wave is gone, I am heading to mid, right? Because that's what I really want at this particular point. Boom, there it goes, and off I go to mid lane. Okay, now I waited around for that because I really wanted to have On Her at least to do some pretty serious damage to the Bastion, and maybe the tower. He chooses to, he takes out the Bastion and he chooses to go for the tower a little bit there. That gives him quite a substantial advantage in that future boxing match. Now what I decided is I'm going to smack down Baron Samedi a little bit. He's got low mana here. So we have a good opportunity here. He uses his ult. I get stuck on minions, unfortunately. He tries to suck me in. I give him the ult. And then I dive for this because sacrificing myself for Baron Samedi is very much worth it. Because, obviously, you can see right here where... Hold on a second. You can see right here where she's taking a decent amount of damage here because we got ganked by Serket. You can actually see this right beforehand. Here's Serket. So I make the press in here once I realize Serket is in there. Because, at the very least, if we're going to have Chang'e die, I want the Baron Samedi to die. Yes, Maui got the kill for me, which is going to put him a little bit farther up. You'll see that for the short term here. At the end of the day... It's better for me to die taking out Baron Samedi to keep him even with the Chang'e than it is for me to survive and have the Chang'e die and nobody on the enemy team die. It's more worthwhile in that particular instance. So it was a good sacrifice. It wasn't ideal. I was just making the best of a bad situation. Sometimes you have to, but that was why I was willing to die for that. And I only really did because Serket was there. If Serket hadn't shown up, I probably would not have taken that last step in there to use my third ability there. I hold the wave for Chang'e because she's building stacks. I know she's building stacks. I'm looking to just get some poke. Maui interrupts, which is totally fine. Serket shows up again, so at this particular point, I'm looking to save Chang'e. I'm not really looking for anything else. Maui whiffs his ult, which is a shame because that would have been a really great ult if he'd landed that. But here we are. Now you'll notice also, I just want to really quickly mention this. After I built my stage 2 cloak, I did not build anything else. I am looking to grab my, and here, Baron somebody really cuts us off. I just kind of dumbly stand there and let him hit me for that, for no reason. Try to get some poke on Serket. He wastes his ult. Now, Chang'e makes an interesting decision here. She chases down Serket. Now, the reason why she's chasing down Serket is because she's essentially down a kill compared to, well, she's down a life compared to the Baron Samedi. In her mind, she really didn't need to chase that down. Again, I killed Baron Samedi, so he wasn't going to be, you know, that far ahead. She actually probably lost more golden experience by chasing that down than she did by getting it, right? And I get my prophetic cloak here because that's what I was waiting for. My train of thought was interrupted earlier. I apologize. But the reason I didn't buy any potions earlier, I just bought the wards, is because specifically I did want to save up for that prophetic cloak. I need to be starting up these stacks, obviously, and that's what I needed next. So you can see, and now I call out missing middle because I kind of expected that they might rotate over to left because obviously Medusa's been having a really hard time. They were way far and away too late. The Anhur, I don't even think I needed to call missing. The Anhur was just naturally going to go for the purple buff anyways, so I really don't think my enemy missing call mattered there, but it's nice to keep that in mind anytime you don't see the enemy team in their lane, whoever they happen to be, killing the minions. That's, you know, pretty good time to bust out a call. Now, there's Serket, so I know she's looking for a gank, so I'm prepping for this, right? And then she's moving left. Now, I warn them that she's coming left, but I don't move left, very specifically because it is a 2v2, and Achilles just ganked, so theoretically speaking, Medusa's low on health. They shouldn't need me there for Serket, right? But Chang'e, with a full HP Maui and a full HP Baron Samedi, she is going to need me. Okay, that is why I do not rotate with the Serket. Chang'e needs me more than I expect Achilles and Anhur do, alright? Basically, by the way, I accidentally pressed the wrong key and threw out my ward there. That is not an intentional ward, that was me accidentally hitting the wrong key. Because my wards are on the C keys, as you could see earlier, right, which is right next to my VGS key, so I accidentally hit C instead of V. It happens occasionally. But, you know, here we are. You know, I'm going to hold this wave for Chang'e so she can get some stacks. I'm checking up the enemy's build and looking how many stacks she has. Nothing really big has changed. Anhur clears the tower, so we're ahead in left lane. So now I can expect rotations from Medusa and Anhur, right? We have a fight here. Serket ganks. Baron Samedi tries to ult. Chang'e does a pretty good job of dancing around and delaying. I kill him. Now, I keep pressing on this because I have a lot of HP. I've just built my prophetic cloak. I'm in a really good position here, and I can see Achilles coming in. In fact, he arrives right at this point. Right, boom, there he goes. He kills Serket. Now, it's unfortunately very difficult for Cthulhu to lock down Maui. Once he gets in the air, he pretty much is away scot-free, unfortunately. But it was a great fight. We did get 2 for 1. Chang'e died, sure, but I did kill Baron Samedi in exchange, and Achilles also killed Serket, which is a really good benefit there because he was having, you know, he was about on pace, maybe a little bit behind. So that is going to give him a bit of an advantage for the future of the jungle, so that's a really great thing. Now we meet back up, of course, and Maui goes for the Chang'e. I'm not sure why he initiated on this when I'm a little bit ahead of him at this point. And Chang'e is a little bit ahead of Baron Samedi. That wasn't a great call on his decision. You can see where he took a lot of damage. I really didn't. I just lost some mana. We have Medusa here, which surprises me very slightly. I would have more expected Anhur to show up first, so her interest in showing up on this side is a bit interesting. At least beating Anhur in that particular regard. Here comes Anhur, as he should. I'm not blaming the on her for this, by the way. This is actually a bit of Medusa jumping the gun slightly, more than anything else. She probably didn't see on her lane and recognize that as an opportunity. You'll notice she backed out fairly quickly here. But we still have on her over here. Here's Serket again, of course, because Serket is now at this point rather concerned about the mid lane. Great kill by Chang'e there. Great ult by Medusa. The fantastic ult by Maui pulls in the on her. And now I'm just trying to get Chang'e out. I'm willing to die for the cause. I don't know how I don't here. She whiffs a couple of shots. The minions don't kill me, which is a miracle, and I'm able to get out, which is just absolutely fantastic. The Achilles comes in, wipes them both out, which is amazing. I know my dash stunned the Medusa briefly. I'm waiting here a couple of seconds for... Well, originally I was going to wait some seconds for the Manticore spike, but I decided I'm just going to buy some wards and go out there because I don't really want to lose out on gold specifically. Now, keep in mind that I, again, don't have Sentinel's Gift, so I can't afford to be sitting in Fountain waiting for gold. It's just not going to work out for me, right? Now, they all go right to gank Bologna, which to me is a bit concerning because this means that very likely Serket is on her way over there. I rotate over there. I really probably don't need to be honest. I think this was a bad call on my part in retrospect because sure, Serket might be rotating over, but Medusa might be. If Medusa had rotated over, then this would have been much more concerning. Serket, I was pretty confident, would have possibly Medusa. The ultimate reason I did rotate over was Serket Medusa gank, but even then, I still don't think I necessarily needed to be there. I do wind up helping the Amaterasu with her bastions a little bit here, which is nice, but again, I really didn't need to be here. Now, I leave at this particular point after discouraging the minions from following me, primarily because I don't want to steal Amaterasu's farm. I know she's been having a bit of a rough time against Bologna here, so I don't want to siphon too much farm off of her. I probably ultimately got some assist credit from... I don't even think I got any assist credit for any of the minions, actually. And we have 3 here, so I go on ahead and use Horrific Emblem on Baron Samedi. He gets absolutely decimated because he can't even move. I wasted the Horrific Curse, actually, because she stunned him into the next week, and then he just straight up died, so... But I use it just in case we need to do that. I was actually expecting him to ult, and then I could just absorb the ult and have Chang'e kill him afterwards, but he didn't even have the opportunity, which was really nice. And now at this point, I am again looking to save the Chang'e. There's actually a reason the Serket is so focused on the Chang'e. I will explain that at the end of the match, but there is a reason for that, apparently. She, you know, goes for the Chang'e again. And boom, alright. And he goes for that. Now, the reason... This is a very specific reaction here, because... Hold on, let me go back a little bit here. Now, I've ulted, right? Chang'e's going for some tower damage here. Serket blinks in on her. And so I know they're pretty serious about attacking her. Maui ults her right here, right? And I activate my root in an... method to try to keep them off of her. It does kind of work. I do root the Serket, which prevents her from hitting Chang'e an additional time because she doesn't have that melee range, which is nice. I absorb that, and then they surrender. Now, again, the really big thing here is the earrings as the first stage of the earrings as your second item stack up on health and multi-potions, which gives you enough mana regeneration between the multi-potions and the earring, where in the early game of the match, you're really not going to have too much of a mana problem. And as the match progresses, you will have the opportunity to get the rest of, you know, your MP restoring items. Now, before I get into the itemization of the teams and a couple of the other points I wanted to talk about, I wanted to really quickly talk about my intended plan, what I was originally planning on building as the match progressed. Now, once I was done getting Manticore's spikes, my very next move was going to be Pestilence, because at this particular point, the Baron Samedi was starting to heal a decent amount, and I would have preferred to have that anti-healing, alright, primarily. So, my fourth item would have been Pestilence, then Gladiator's Shield, and then I probably would have finished up with... Probably I would have gone with Stone of Binding. Now, something else I want to mention here is, and this is something that the Sane Yandere stated at the end of the match, Anher and the Saint Yandere are queued together and had apparently faced off against some members of the enemy team. I would have to guess at minimum Circuit, because the Circuit was fairly single-minded on going for the Chang'e. As you could see, even with other targets there who might have been more viable targets for killing, she went for the Chang'e. So this is just a theory on my part. I can absolutely tell you with confidence BDT Wings and Saint Yandere are partied together, because they were talking after the match about how they'd fought some people on the enemy team in the previous match. So I know that they are queued together, and I know that they fought at least somebody else on the enemy team. I believe it is the Circuit, possibly the Maui, but I also want to, and this is the other point I was making at the beginning of the match, you will notice, obviously, my gold amount is very low compared to the rest of my team. It's only 6,800. You can see, comparatively speaking, the Maui has 500 more gold than me. He's got Sentinel's Gift, and he did not die the one time that I did. However, despite that, I have the most player damage on my team and the second most player damage in the game, with only the Warrior's Axe. Now, the reason I'm mentioning this, and I'm not mentioning the specific amount of damage here, is because that actually doesn't make a difference. What I'm trying to prove here, and what I want, one of the things I would like you to take away from this video, is that Sentinel's Gift is not the be-all, end-all of success in the support role. I was able to help keep my allies alive, or, failing that, ensure that their laning opponent also went down. In this particular case, primarily Baron Samedi, but the Chang'e did very well. She went 5-2 despite 2 early falls. She really recovered nicely, and part of that was my setup. Yes, she's building really well. She's clearly a good player, but I was getting some good roots. I had some great stuns, some great pushes with my dash there. Same with Anher. Anher was really right there, picking up a lot of what I was laying down there. But the key that I want you to walk away with is, even though Maui had Sentinel's Gift and a very classical support build, yes, he didn't die the one time I did, but you will also notice he has fewer assists. He has 3 assists and 2 kills. This means he participated in 5 of his team's kills, alright, in one way or another. I have 2 kills and 7 assists. Out of the 10 kills my team has, I aided in some way or another. If I didn't get the kill, I helped get the kill on the other ones. In fact, only 1 kill from our team did not involve me at all. Okay? That is supporting. Your goal, again, even with Cthulhu, even building Warrior's Axe for a little bit of extra damage, healing, and mana regeneration, even with Manticore's Spike and Gladiator's Shield, which you'll see in the next episode. I intend on following this up with a full-length conquest. But even with all of that, my ability to help the team get their kills through a combination of my crowd controls, though short-lived, still are fairly consistently applied, and just the addition of some decent damage is good enough to really give your allies the edge in a lot of fights. And you can see where I was hitting decently hard on a lot of these enemies. In fact, when I mentioned earlier, when I essentially wasted my horrific curse on the Baron Samedi, he was blasted into oblivion. Part of that was my damage. The Chang'e would not have killed him quite so quickly if I was not contributing more than the average amount of damage for support. I had Warrior's Axe proc on that. I had my first ability, which I used, which was at that point all 5 levels. It had all 5 of its levels on that, so it was doing a decent bit of damage there. And even with my Meyer ability, which is the root, I was still dealing some pretty decent damage, alright? At the end of the day, splashing in just that smidgen of damage can really make a difference in a support's ability to help his team get the kills. And again, I'm 500 down on gold. But I was a level ahead. And again, I contributed the most damage on the team. And that's what my team needed there. Now, I also want you to keep in mind that this is not the be-all, end-all. Alright, the Maui did perform very strongly. He played very well. He had a couple of questionable initiations, notably that one at the early game where he was pulling, well, I'm sorry, not the early game, that one in what is essentially the mid-game for this match, where he pulled me in despite having a level disadvantage on both himself and his mid. Both he and Baron Samedi were a level down from myself and Chang'e, which that was a questionable initiation, and he came out of that the worse for wear on that little exchange. But other than a couple of questionable decisions, he played very well. And this is something else that I wanted to talk about. There is no one perfect way. The way I play Cthulhu, the way I build Cthulhu works really well for me. I've become quite a bit more of an aggressive player since my early days. And the way I build helps me with that. If you're a bit more of a defensive player, which I covered in the previous episode on builds, it's fine. You can absolutely go Sentinel's Gift if you want to. What I'm demonstrating here, what I'm looking for you to take away is that you don't need to be married to the idea of Sentinel's Gift to be an effective support. Supporting is not just about being tanky. Supporting is more than just being tanky. There are a lot of things that you need to be able to do as a support, and sometimes doing damage is one of the ways you can be an effective support. So, with that being said, I do really quickly want to mention that all of the builds are fairly standard. I've already addressed the issues with the Amaterasu's starting item. Really, the only item that stands out here as being particularly odd. But beyond that, there's nothing really specific to talk about here in terms of builds here. Alright. Very standard stuff. So, with that being said, thank you all very much for joining me. If you liked this, please like and subscribe. If you didn't, please ignore me. And if you have any comments, questions, concerns, ideas, suggestions, or requests, please leave them down in the comment section below. And thank you all very much for joining me. Next episode, I will have a full Cthulhu conquest for you. Thank you very much for joining me, and have a great day.